The top stories tonight in Y News. Department of Foreign Affairs Secretary Teodoro Locsin Jr. has made a public apology to his Chinese counterpart after swearing at China on his Twitter account.
Malacanang said there was nothing illegal about President Rodrigo Duterte's vaccination with the Sinopharm COVID-19 vaccine.
Immigration officers linked to trafficking overseas Filipino workers in Syria have been relieved from their posts. Five Metro Manila cities begin their pilot rollout of the Russian-made COVID-19 vaccine, Sputnik V.
India rushed to order COVID vaccines, but supplies are limited.
And Bill and Melinda Gates announced divorce after 27 years of marriage. Good evening, Philippines and the world. Today is Tuesday, May 4, 2021. I am Horlin Delgado.
Join us in the next hour as we deliver today's top stories around the country and in other parts of the world. I'm Angelo Castro III.
We are also seen in 1,935 satellite monitoring centers nationwide and via live streaming worldwide through the UNTV News and Rescue social media accounts and our website, untvweb.com. I am William Theo.
First in the news. Department of Foreign Affairs Secretary Teodoro Locsin Jr. has made a public apology to his Chinese counterpart after swearing in his Twitter account over the lingering presence of Chinese vessels in the West Philippine Sea. Rosa Licos explains why.
President Rodrigo Duterte last night said in his weekly public address that we should not be rude and disrespectful, even though we have conflict with China on the West Philippine Sea. This following the statement of Foreign Affairs Secretary Teodoro Locsin in his tweet lashing at Beijing in an expletive-laced demand for China to remove their ships from areas in the disputed territory. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque said Secretary Locsin has apologized to China.
Kami po ay nagkausap ni Secretary Locsin at pinaalam po niya sa akin na personal siyang nag-apologize po sa Chinese ambassador at ang mga nabanggit naman po niyang salita ay dahil lang sa mga bagay-bagay na naging dahilan para uminit ang kanyang ulo.
The palace official cleared that it was the secretary's initiative and no one directed him to offer an apology. Meanwhile, Secretary Locsin clarified in his Twitter post that he apologized to Chinese State Councilor and Foreign Minister Wang Yi. The president also reminded his cabinet members to avoid using expletives remarks in the field of diplomacy.
Ang mensahe ng presidente, sa larangan ng diplomasya, wala pong lugar ang pagmumura. At ang sabi po ng mensahe ng presidente sa lahat ng miyembro ng kanyang gabinete, ang presidente lang ang po pwedeng magmura, wala pong po pwedeng gumaya sa kanya.
Rosa Licos, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The PNP Maritime Group has deployed 8 seaborne vessels to join various government agencies patrolling the West Philippine Sea. Leah Ilagan reports why.
As part of the country's efforts to protect its sovereignty and exercise our sovereign rights, the PNP Maritime Group deploys its maritime assets to assist the Philippine Navy, Coast Guard, and the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources. The Maritime Group Operations Management Division Chief, Police Colonel Oliver Tanseco says the deployment includes 3 high-speed tactical watercraft, 3 police gunboats, and 2 police fast boats for deployment in law enforcement patrols.
Nagpapatrolya po sa ating coastal areas, nagkakandak po ng intelligence monitoring po sa mga coastal barangay intelligence network natin. Kasama na po yung mga fishing boats. So marami po yan dedicated talaga for West Philippines.
The PNP-MG will send more personnel to the Pag-asa Island.
Ang ating maritime group, yung kanilang training, experience sa maritime law enforcement, kasama na po siyempre pagpapatupad ng ating fishery laws, yung ating investigation po ng violation ng ating fishery law. So enforcement sa investigation po, yun ang dagdag nila na makakatulong po sa mga units po doon sa Pag-asa.
And because the PNP Maritime Group do not have big ships to patrol in the disputed territory, its personnel will be assigned as ship riders aboard the PCG, Philippine Navy, and BFAR vessels.
They will join the vessel kung ano po yung drills, kung ano po yung ginagawa, duties po ng barko, gagawin din po ng ating kapulisan. Pero ang ating primary function, ma'am, yung law enforcement po.
In the last monitoring of the National Task Force for the West Philippine Sea, China still has 5 more ships in the West Philippine Sea. Leia Ilagan, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Meanwhile, President Rodrigo Duterte appealed to China to just allow the Filipinos to fish in peace in the disputed waters. Meanwhile, the president emphasized he never made a campaign promise to retake the West Philippine Sea. However, a retired Supreme Court Associate Justice contradicts the latest statement of the president. Nel Maribuhok reports live.
President Rodrigo Duterte has recalled his previous conversation with Chinese President Xi Jinping. The president said he appealed to the Chinese president to just let the Filipinos fish in the West Philippine Sea.
I told China that I know that it's yours, according to you. I've heard that several times. But you know, you must also have heard of the fact that people are hungry. Ang Pilipino ay gutom. And you are not oblivious to that fact. So, kindly just allow our fishermen to fish in peace.
According to the president, he is ready to talk with China in case of any conflict in the disputed territory.
There is no reason for trouble. If there is one brewing, you call our attention and we can talk immediately to solve the problem.
Meanwhile, President Duterte said that he has no campaign promise to retake the West Philippine Sea.
I never in my campaign as president promised the people that I would retake the West Philippine Sea. I did not promise that I would pressure China. I never mentioned about China and the Philippines in my campaign because that was a very serious matter.
Despite this, the president assures that he will defend the country's sovereignty. But retired Supreme Court Senior Associate Justice Antonio Carpio contradicts President Duterte's latest pronouncement. According to him, the president declared during the presidential debate that if elected president, he would ride a jet ski to Scarborough Shoal and plant the Philippine flag. Also, the president issued a statement that fully supported the arbitration case against China. Carpio said President Duterte cannot say that he never mentioned the West Philippine Sea issue or he would be admitting that he is fooling millions of Filipino or what he calls committing grand estafa. Meanwhile, former Foreign Affairs Secretary Albert Del Rosario said that it is the duty of the President under the Constitution to protect what is ours. Del Rosario urged again the President to enforce the country's arbitral win against China. Malacanang has yet to comment on the issue. Nel Maribuhok, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
In other news, President Rodrigo Duterte has received his first dose of COVID-19 vaccine last night. Using the China-made Sinopharm vaccine, the palace assures that the inoculation is not illegal. Rosalie Cos will tell us why.
The Sinopharm vaccine dose received by President Rodrigo Duterte last night is not smuggled. It is part of the 1,000 doses donated by China to the Philippine government and covered by the Compassionate Special Permit issued earlier by the Food and Drug Administration. FDA has yet to grant emergency use authorization to Sinopharm vaccines.
So covered po yan ng Compassionate Use Permit. So wala pong nalabag ang ating presidente. At yung supply naman po ay nanggaling nga doon sa additional 1,000 donation ng Chinese government to the Philippine government.
Vaccine czar Carlito Galvez reiterated that the president was inoculated following the clearance of his doctors. Sinopharm vaccine is the chief executive's preferred COVID-19 vaccine for himself.
Yung Sinopharm, ito yung ginagamit ng mga leaders sa China. At saka ito yung tinatawag natin, kaya nakita natin, mahal yan. At yan din po ang ginamit po ng mga leaders dito sa area ng Middle East. So with that, nakita ng recommendation ng kanyang doktor na talaga yung Sinopharm ang mas sa kanya.
Malacanang said the president did not experience any adverse reaction following his immunization. He will also get the second dose after less than a month. Apart from the president, Chief Presidential Legal Counsel Salvador Panelo also received his first dose of Sinopharm vaccine today. Panelo was vaccinated as he is part of the priority group A2 or senior citizens, according to the palace. Meanwhile, the 10,000 doses of the Sinopharm vaccine donation for PSG have yet to arrive in the country. Rosa Licos, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Food and Drug Administration says it is in the discretion of the Presidential Security Group or PSG hospital to choose the recipients for the Sinopharm vaccines, including President Rodrigo Duterte. The hospital is also responsible if the president experiences adverse events after taking the jab. Aiko Miguel will tell us why.
The Food and Drug Administration or FDA has granted the Presidential Security Group or PSG a compassionate license for the use of 10,000 doses of the COVID-19 vaccine from China's Sinopharm. Under the license, family members and even those who have close contact with them may get inoculated with Sinopharm vaccines. Last night, President Duterte received his first dose of the Chinese vaccine. FDA Director General Eric Domingo explains the director of the PSG hospital is responsible for President Duterte's inoculation.
The head of the PSG hospital. So para maprotektahan yung kalusugan ng Pangulo, sila yung magbibigay ng bakuna kung kailangan. Of course, primarily, it was given for the PSG members na close contact security ni Presidente. Ngayon, kung nag-decide sila na ibigay ito dun sa ibang malapit kay Presidente, they will have to report to us and they have to see muna kung ano yung kanilang report.
Health Secretary Francisco Duque III stands firm that there's nothing wrong with the inoculation of President Duterte, even though Sinopharm has no emergency use authorization yet in the Philippines.
Ito ay pinahintulutan gamitin by virtue of the Compassionate Special Permit. Okay? So yung CSP ang siyang authority na pwedeng gamitin ito na galing ang authorization sa FDA. At ang pangalawa naman, ang desisyon ni Pangulo na gamitin ito ay batay na rin sa prescription ng kanyang doktor. Kasama po yan doon sa batch na ginamit sa PSG.
Currently, Sinopharm has not yet submitted an EUA application to FDA. They have just sent 3 letters of intent by local manufacturing distributors in the country. Based on FDA's initial information, Sinovac and Sinopharm has almost the same efficacy.
Hindi pa naman siya dumaan din talaga sa evaluation sa amin, no? But from what I've read sa mga ibang evaluation niya like sa WHO, similar din naman yung efficacy niya sa Sinovac, especially sa mga 18 to 59-year-olds at saka sa mga walang comorbidities, no? Mataas din naman, mga 70 to 80% ang nakita ko ng kanyang efficacy.
Meanwhile, the investigation on the alleged smuggled vaccines used by the PSG last year has not yet progressed.
Ilang beses na rin naman nakiusap ang FDA, pati si Secretary Duque rin naman has asked for information, but there's really nothing forthcoming. Wala talaga kaming mapiga. No? I mean, it's a very difficult situation and until now, hindi namin masarhan itong kaso na to.
FDA once again reminds the public not to patronize COVID-19 vaccines sold online and in the market. The government is the sole authorized entity to distribute and inoculate COVID-19 vaccines that have EUA in the country. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Meanwhile, President Rodrigo Duterte advises the public to just wait for the government's aid instead of going out and swarming community pantries. Nel Marie Bohok will tell us why.
President Rodrigo Duterte is worried over the possible spread of COVID-19 virus if people are continuously going out. The president said in his talk to the nation last night that there are threats of spike in COVID-19 infections if people are going out and swarming activities for food aid. Although President Duterte did not directly refer to the community pantries, he insisted that his words were not meant to be an insult, but he thinks that people behind these activities are not aware of the consequences in their actions.
People were swarming. It might not be the first thing that you did with your idea, but from there it generated itong mga ganito. So, nagkalapit-tapit hanggang magtaas na naman. Huwag na tayo magbulahan kasi kung alam ninyo yan, hindi ninyo ginawa. The fact na ginawa ninyo, hindi ninyo alam ang consequences. It's just a matter of being who's eligible, who can talk better. But it has something to do with just common sense. Hindi ninyo alam yan na nagdudumugan yung tao. Yan ang mahirap, tapos ang gobyerno ang masama.
The president said it is better to wait for the government's assistance.
Itong mga tao, matigas kasi ulo ninyo. Ayaw ninyong maniwala. Sabi na nga na mabuti pa mag-standby ka na lang ng bahay. Alam mo, hindi ito biro. Pag tinamaan ka ng COVID.
President Duterte said he is not against Filipinos helping each other, but emphasized the importance of coordination with barangay officials to distribute the aid.
Kayo mga walang talagang makain o ng maghintay lang kayo o try to communicate with your barangay captain. Ako, nagsabi ko magbalot kayo ng pagkain. Ibibigay ninyo yan sa mga tao. Sekreto.
This prong of community pantries started during the enhanced community quarantine imposed in the National Capital Region Plus bubble. It has an approach of give what you can and take what you need. Nel Maribuhok, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
For those watching us on YouTube, please click the subscribe button you see on your screen and ring the bell for notification. You may also follow us on Facebook.
The Bureau of Immigration, or BI, has recommended the filing of charges against 4 immigration officers who allegedly stamped the passports of trafficked Filipino women in Syria. Meanwhile, the National Bureau of Investigation is calling on the involved immigration officers to come forward and help them in the investigation. Harleen Delgado has this story.
Omaima and Alea, not their real names, were just 16 years old when they were trafficked to Syria in 2008. They were able to return to the Philippines just last year, while Elias Lenlen was only 14 years old when she was illegally recruited to Syria in 2018. Because of the maltreatment she experienced in the hands of her employer, she attempted to escape in 2019 by jumping off the second-floor window.
Hinandado po nila ako sa isang kwarto, tapos bago nila po hinatid sa airport, tapos bago po kumalis, dinuraan pa nung amo ko yung mukha.
According to Pastilla's scheme whistleblower Alison Chong, most of the trafficked Filipino women were recruited from rural areas. He adds immigration officers do not profile them once they are on the list of the so-called outbound pastillas or the kickback that immigration officers receive from illegal recruiters in exchange for the unimpeded departure of trafficked women.
Sa tingin ko po, nakaka-influence yun dun sa bakit Muslims, yung Muslim women yung nata-traffic dahil dun po nangyayari yung recruitment. From the viewpoint po ng immigration officer, mahirap po i-profile yung passenger kasi nakatakip po yung mga mukha nila. So it adds a layer of camouflage po. Mas madali po silang matraffic.
According to the Bureau of Immigration, over 200 suspected minors or underage domestic helpers were intercepted from 2018 to 2019. BI Commissioner Jaime Morenta says he will order the relief of the female immigration officer who stamped the passport of Elias Lenlen. Meanwhile, the Bureau has recommended the filing of charges against the immigration officers named in the previous Senate committee hearing who were allegedly involved in facilitating the departure of trafficked women to Syria. Morente says the 4 immigration officers have been relieved from their post and may be suspended by Justice Secretary Menardo Guevara.
Yesterday, I have forwarded to the Department of Justice the fact-finding report with recommendations for the consideration on the charging of these immigration officers for several violations ranging from grave misconduct, gross neglect of duty.
The National Bureau of Investigation, for its part, has called on the involved immigration officers to help in the investigation and reveal their bosses.
Karamihan sa nakakasuhan natin yung mga bata, mga bagong immigration officers. In-encourage namin itong mga nabanggit ng mga pangalan na nagtatak na you come forward and inform the NBI, inform us kung sino ba talaga nag-utos. Huwag po kayo matakot kasi po, sa totoo lang, kayo ang makakasuhan.
Jorlene Delgado, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
5 cities in Metro Manila have begun inoculating residents with the Russian COVID-19 vaccine Sputnik V. Frontliners, senior citizens, and persons with comorbidities received the highly anticipated first dose. Janice Inhente reports why.
The cities of Makati, Muntinlupa, Taguig, and Parañaque have received 3,000 doses of Sputnik V each for the pilot rollout of the Russian vaccine. Medical frontliners who have not received their COVID-19 vaccines yet were prioritized for the Sputnik V jobs. Following them in the priority list are the individuals in the A2 or senior citizens and the A3 or persons with comorbidities aged 18 to 59. In Manila, Sputnik V vaccines are initially administered at the Santa Ana Hospital and Hospital ng Maynila. Over 120 healthcare workers voluntarily registered to be vaccinated with Sputnik V vaccine.
Yung initial reaction ko is masakit po siya sa braso. Tapos parang medyo mainit po sa katawan. Pero the rest okay naman po. Initially, scheduled ako for AstraZeneca eh. Tapos, nagka-doubts ako, hindi muna ako nagpa-vaccine. Tapos ngayon, na-convince na ako na we really need to get vaccinated.
In Parañaque City, 1,500 healthcare workers, senior citizens, and persons with comorbidities will receive the jobs.
Maganda yung kumpiyansa dito sa Sputnik V. Makikita po natin na aside sa ating pong mga pinapunta rito, kasi yung ating pong mga beneficiary, based po ito sa online registered. Doon po sa date registered. Pero nag-accept po tayo ng walk-in as quick substitution list. Kasi hindi po dapat masayang po yung ating vaccine.
In Taguig City, police personnel are included in their priority list to receive the Sputnik V. According to Taguig City Health Officer Dr. Jennifer Lu de Guzman, the vaccination system and process have not changed.
Ang mga empleyado ng PSA na kasama because they are not the medical field but they are our frontliners. Sila ay kasama sa mga containment team na nagsasagawa ng mga contact tracing.
In Makati City, the city targeted 800 individuals who are included in the A1 to A3 priority list. While in Muntinlupa City, the LGU conducts a survey for those who want to be vaccinated using the Sputnik V vaccine. According to Health Secretary Francisco Duque III, an additional 485,000 doses of Sputnik V vaccine are expected to arrive in the Philippines by the end of May.
Ito naman ay nakita natin maayos mula nung dumating hanggat sa naiturok natin kanina, naging saksi po tayo dito at meron po tayong inaantay na mga 485,000 pa. Hopefully within the end of May, no? So pagdating yan ay mas marami na tayong mababakunahan.
Sputnik V requires a storage temperature of -18 degrees Celsius and below. A person who received a Sputnik V job would have to wait for 21 days before getting the second shot. Janice Inhente, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Philippines posted 5,683 new cases of COVID-19, bringing the total caseload to 1,067,892. In its 4 p.m. bulletin, the Department of Health, or DOH, said the latest tally pushed the country's active cases to 66,060. Of the active cases, 94.6% are mild, 1.7% are asymptomatic, 1.5% are severe, and 1.2% are in critical condition. The death toll rose to 17,622 with 97 new fatalities. The DOH also reported 9,028 additional recoveries, raising the total recovered patients to 984,210. The implementation of stricter community quarantine restrictions played a major part in lowering the COVID-19 bed occupancy rate in hospitals, particularly in Metro Manila and adjacent areas. But some doctors also explained that the additional COVID-19 facilities contributed to the decongestion. Asher Kadapan Jr. tells us why.
Instead of having COVID-19 patients stay in hospitals, several quarantine and isolation facilities as well as modular hospitals are the ones admitting mild to even severe cases. University of the Philippines Philippine General Hospital or UPPGH spokesperson Dr. Jonas Del Rosario said that these COVID-19 facilities significantly help unload patients in hospitals which are most needed by those with critical infection.
Yung iba pong mga modular hospital or quarantine facilities, tumatanggap din sila ng iba naming mga pasyenteng recovering. Na-admit muna sa PGH, just hindi na nila kukumpletuhan yung pagpapagaling sa PGH dahil stable na sila. Tanggapin naman itong mga modular hospitals. Malaking tulong po sa amin.
Dr. Jose Rene de Grano, president of the Private Hospitals Association of the Philippines Incorporated, explains that this is one of the reasons for the slight decongestion they also noticed in their private hospital facilities dedicated to COVID-19 patients.
There is somewhat decongestion, if you will notice, because mainly the bulk of the patients are asymptomatic and mild, and then they are brought to the isolation and the quarantine facilities. And now the COVID beds in the hospitals are mainly for moderate, severe, and critical cases.
Despite the decreasing rate in the COVID-19 bed occupancy in hospitals and the availability of vaccines, doctors advise the public to maintain protection against the deadly virus by continuously adhering to the minimum health and safety protocols. Asher Kadapan Jr., UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Health experts warned the public of imminent dangers to our health of the blistering temperature persisting across the country. JP Nunez reports why.
The Philippine Atmospheric, Geophysical and Astronomical Services Administration or PAGASA has registered a 37 degrees Celsius heat index in Clark, Pampanga. But according to PAGASA, the number may still increase to more than 40 degrees Celsius as the dry season persists. Though the recorded temperature is just normal, the Weather Bureau still reminds the public to take precautionary measures to avoid heat-related illnesses such as heat stroke.
Kung pagtaas ng temperatura ang pinag-uusapan, then ang pinaka-life-threatening dyan would be yung heat stress, heat stroke, kasi pwedeng magkaroon ng permanent damage sa brain pagka hindi na-address yan kaagad. And yan yung mga pinakababantayan natin para hindi kumbaga kung kinakailangan ng dalhin sa ospital yung pasyente, dalhin na kaagad.
To prevent heat stroke, an individual must limit the amount he spends outdoors, drink plenty of water, avoid tea, coffee, soda, and alcohol. Wear a wide-brimmed hat and long-sleeved clothing when outdoors. Schedule heavy-duty activities for the beginning or end of the day when it's cooler. Dr. Camille Santa Cruz also stressed that prevention of heat-related illnesses is much better than going to hospitals that are now fully occupied of COVID-19 patients.
maximize yung use ng teleconsultation kasi for sure, lahat ng ospital meron pong teleconsultation program. Gamitin po natin yon para sa mga simpleng consultations. Hindi ko kailangan physically pumunta sa emergency rooms natin kasi sa ospital, andun po lahat ng may COVID natin.
JP Nunez, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Lawmakers at the House of Representatives are pushing for a bill seeking to grant mental health wellness leave to all employees. However, a group of employers is against it. Ray Palayo will tell us why.
Ryan Chu is one of the office workers who needs to adjust his working condition when the pandemic struck. Because his work requires reporting to the office personally, he fears he might get infected with COVID-19 resulting to anxiety.
Iba pa po yung sa work tapos yung iintindihin mo pa po yung yung health mo. So yun po nagsasabay-sabay kaya po mas lalo nakaka-stress.
This is what lawmakers at the House of Representatives would like to address in filing 3 bills since 2019 entitled Mental Health Leave and Awareness Act. The House Bill 4620 was filed by Makati Representative Romulo Peña Jr. in September 2019. In February 2020, ang Probinsyano Party List Representative Alfred De Los Santos filed the House Bill 6253, and the House Bill 7895 was filed by Parañaque Representative Joy Tambunting in October 2020. The bills are proposing a mental health leave for 5 days with pay on the condition that the employee will participate in mental health wellness activities offered by their respective employers. The Associated Labor Union Trade Union Congress of the Philippines said the bill must be enacted to benefit even those working from home.
Meron silang panahon na makapag-disengage sa pressure at consolidate ang kanilang sarili at makapag-restart, makapag-recharge.
However, the Employers Confederation of the Philippines is not in favor of the bill. The group says there are already a lot of employee leave, especially for females.
Na ang main concern natin ngayon, marami hindi nagtatrabaho so hindi mo na kailangan gawin ng leave. Ang main concern natin, makapagtrabaho mga tao, makakabawas tayo sa mental health problem pagka marami nagtatrabaho.
Meanwhile, for the Commission on Population and Development, basis for the mental health leave should be established first. Ray Pelayo, UNTV News and Rescue, we serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Presidential Anti-Corruption Commission, or PACC, will soon meet with other government officials to investigate the complaints lodged in connection with the distribution of government aid to affected residents. Dante Amento will give us the details live. Yes, Dante, go ahead.
Diego, the Presidential Anti-Corruption Commission, or PACC, has received more than 10,000 complaints over the distribution of the Social Amelioration Program, or SAP 1 and 2, and the latest ECQ financial aid from the national government for NCR+. Some of these complaints include lack of amount received, not in the list of the beneficiaries, and were not able to receive the financial aid or assistance. These were sent through the PACC media page and hotline number. Thus, PACC Commissioner Greco Belica says they will have a meeting with the DILG and DSWD on the issue.
We will find out ano bang ginagawa nila. Kasi ilang tranches na yun SAP 1, SAP 2, tapos ayuda. Puro may reklamo. Pero bumababa naman ang reklamo.
The PACC wants to clarify the process of distribution or where the problem may have occurred.
Ang nirereklamo yung mga barangay. Barangay, mayor, minsan nirereklamo mayor. So hindi naman nirereklamo sila secretary, sila undersecretary, sila ASEC. Hindi naman sila nirereklamo. So yung sa amin, pero dumarating sa amin yung reklamo. So kaya kami nag-iimbestiga ngayon is bakit lagi may reklamo? Diba? So paano ba ang sistema nyo dyan?
Diego Belica assures to file appropriate charges against certain individuals if evidence warrants. For complaints, just call or text the PACC hotline number at 0906-692-7324 or send a message through the agency's social media page. And that's the latest. Back to you, Diego.
Thank you, Dante Amento, reporting live.
With only 110 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines bought by the Narendra Modi government, it is only enough for a little portion of the 1.4 billion Indian population. Marvi Delphine will tell us the details live. Marvi?
Steph, since the beginning of COVID-19 vaccine sales in December of 2020, only 110 million doses are available in India, just enough to cater for 4% of India's 1.4 billion population. This lack of vaccine supplies has caused India to suffer from another wave of cases, with the addition of 400,000 reported on Saturday. India has now become the country with the fastest increase rate of COVID-19 cases. With the limited hospital supplies, the country faces difficulty in progressing through the COVID crisis. The significance of vaccines are now being recognized as it helps in decreasing hospitalization rates and bring relief to the health sector. Now government states are battling for vaccines, desperate for help. And even though India houses the largest vaccine manufacturer, Serum Institute of India Limited, they can only output around 60 to 70 million vaccines per month and only 100 million by this coming July. Adar Punawala commented that many believed India was winning over COVID-19 infections, which is why no orders for 1 billion vaccines were made. This has led to the endless patients running to hospitals and lack of supplies to mediate treatment. Steph?
Thank you, Marvi, for that report. U.S. President Joe Biden raised the refugee admissions capacity far above the limit set by the Trump administration. Charisse Lamboen will tell us why live. Charisse?
Steph, part of U.S. President Joe Biden's election campaign vow was to increase the U.S. refugee capacity. But what caused continuous outrage was his announcement on April to maintain the 15,000 capacity from Trump's administration. This led to his announcement yesterday to raise the United States annual refugee admissions cap to 62,500 for this fiscal year, stating that the previous administration's 15,000 capacity did not reflect America's values as a nation that welcomes and supports refugees. According to the Refugee Processing Center, as of March 31, there were only over 2,000 refugees admitted to the United States this fiscal year. The U.S. president added that they can't achieve 62,500 admissions for this year, but are working quickly to undo the damage of the last 4 years. The previous Trump administration slashed the refugee cap to 15,000 from former President Barack Obama's 110,000 capacity on his last year in office. Though it will be hard to hit, the current administration is going to use every tool available to reach the goal of admitting 125,000 refugees for the coming fiscal year. Steph?
Thank you, Charisse, reporting live. With the COVID-19 vaccine rollout significantly decreasing the number of New Yorkers infected with the virus, officials are looking forward to removing more business capacity limits within the region. Miguel Rey de Leon will tell us why.
In a joint statement with the state governors of Connecticut, New Jersey, and New York, Governor Andrew Cuomo was pleased to announce that the region will be lifting most of their coronavirus capacity restrictions on businesses beginning on May 19. Soon, businesses like amusement parks, retail stores, food services, gyms, salons, and offices will no longer be subject to state-imposed restrictions. However, businesses will still be allowed to set their own restrictions should they choose. New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy cites that the pending elimination of business restrictions is because of the effective nation-leading vaccine distribution program in the region. Over the last month, New York's COVID-19 infections decreased by 50% and hospitalizations decreased by 40%. New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio excitedly announced that his city could soon return to normal thanks to the vaccine rollout, with 6 million vaccines already administered in the city of 8 million people. Miguel Rey de Leon, UNTV News and Rescue, USA. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
There has been a rising international support for Taiwan to attend as an observer at the upcoming World Health Assembly. However, it will likely anger Beijing officials who have been blocking the island's participation in recent years. Amiel Pascual will tell us why live. Amiel?
Good evening, staff. Lawmakers from the United States, including the U.S. State Department, called for Taiwan's participation in the upcoming World Health Assembly. The WHO, the decision-making body of the World Health Organization, is set to hold its 74th annual meeting in Geneva, Switzerland from May 24 to June 1. The American congressman took social media last week praising Taiwan's successful pandemic response. According to Senator Mitt Romney, it is critical for Taiwan to participate in the annual WHO and should not be isolated from the global community.
Excluding Taiwan from participation would play right into the hands of the Communist Chinese Party in its quest to strategically isolate Taiwan from the global community.
Taiwan's response to COVID-19 is acknowledged by many countries. In a statement released by Dr. Chen Shih-chung, Minister of Health and Welfare, said WHO should acknowledge Taiwan's long-standing contribution to the international community in the areas of public health, disease prevention, and human right to health, and to include Taiwan in WHO and its meetings. Taiwan was given an observer status in WHO events in 2009, but was excluded since 2017 due to political pressure from mainland China. That's the latest from Taiwan. Steph?
Thank you, Amiel, for that report. After nearly 30 years of marriage, Bill and Melinda Gates have announced they are getting a divorce. Mary Jo Malariado will tell us why live. Mary Jo?
Good evening, Steph. The billionaire couple took to Twitter today to announce that they will be ending their marriage after 27 years. In a joint post, the pair stated that the decision came after a great deal of thought and a lot of work on their relationship. The post further stated that while they believe they can no longer grow as a couple, however, they will continue to work together at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, which they built with a mission to enable people to lead healthy and productive lives. The foundation has given billions towards causes such as fighting infectious diseases and encouraging vaccinations in children. In order to focus on philanthropic activities, Bill Gates stepped down from his position in Microsoft Board of Directors last year. The couple first met in the 1980s when Melinda joined Microsoft as a product manager and later got married in 1994 in Hawaii. Bill Gates is the fourth wealthiest person in the world, according to Forbes, and is worth $124 billion. Steph?
Thank you, Mary Jo, reporting live. And those are the reasons behind the news in other parts of the globe. I'm Stephanie C., live from Hong Kong. Good evening.
And those are the reasons behind the news, May 4, 2021. I am Herlene Delgado.
Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold. I'm Angelo Castro III.
And because we need to know, we will always ask why. I am William Theo. We serve the people. We give glory to God.